the rejection I felt in football was like rejection, a little bit of success, rejection. Do you know what? This rejection is a part of the game, like I'm just going to go and try and enjoy what's left of it and try and understand the beauty of the game.
Welcome to episode 7 of the Youth Soccer Podcast. Today we're talking about rejection. I think many of us have experienced getting rejected or turned down at a tryout, or maybe being cut from a team for not being good enough. And it can be a difficult situation for parents, for players, and also for coaches who deliver that rejection. So this should be a good discussion today, boys. Ricky, Phil, have you ever been rejected by a team, and how did you respond to that?
How long have you got, Paul?
Yeah.
How long is this podcast?
You go, Phil. I'll give you a minute and a half max.
No, Ricky took a deep breath there, so I'm thinking his might have cut a little bit deeper than mine. Ricky?
All right. People want us to get on with it. Let's go.
For teams, no. Tryouts, yeah. I remember there was something in England going back, I don't know, 20 plus years now, where the pro clubs were kind of got together and they'd create these tryout days with this company. I forget the name, what it was called, but it was all over the country, and a representative from each club, mainly Division 1 Championship. There was the odd Prem club there, but I'm not quite sure whether or not they were really there.
It probably had elite or pro in the name.
Yeah, I think it did. I think it was elite something. And me and my friend at the time, we'd travel around the country, and we'd go as far as Swindon, which for those of you that don't know is quite a distance from where I'm from. And we would probably do like 2 of those a month, and nothing came from it. And it was a bit of a grind to just keep getting up early at the weekends to travel all the way down like 4 or 5 hours. But it was something that we both wanted to do at the time, was to become pro. And so, yeah, that was, in terms of rejection, that was one example I can think of. And then the other example would be, I had Stockport County and Bolton Wanderers were tracking me for a while, and it was a semi-final, and unfortunately it didn't quite go the way I wanted it to go. And I remember receiving a letter the next week from Bolton saying that you weren't quite what we were looking for. So that was the other one. That was the one that
Sam Allardyce didn't want you, did he?
He didn't fancy it. But that was the one that hit deep, that one, because they'd been tracking me for a while. It was like over the course of a few months. But yeah, didn't work out in the end.
So, well, it was you or JJ Okocha, and they took Okocha instead, so it's all right.
There you go.
Kevin Nolan.
Phil?
Paul, I've had lots of rejection. I want to know what kind of context we're talking, because there's rejection from
Well,
tryouts.
I've already said it's
football,
not.
Phil.
This
Just
one's
football,
not about
not
women,
life.
so you can relax on that
Yeah,
one. It's just football.
I'm still going deep within the football realms, because the rejection can come in just not getting picked on a weekend after training well, or it can also come in not getting a new contract, and it can come in not being successful at a tryout. It could be told, we want you to go to another team, or it can also come in the form of, we'd like you to go out on loan. I've had a lot of them. If you have a look at my Wikipedia page, you'll see loan. So I think the biggest one
We're
for
not
me
looking
was
at Wikipedia anymore. It's Grokkopedia now.
Grok, is it? All right. Well, sorry, Paul. Go on, crack your joke, mate. You crack your joke.
No, you carry on, mate. You carry on. I'm just having a little bash at Wikipedia there.
All right. I was on this like upward trajectory from since I was about 18, and I was like working my way up these leagues. So like started in like English pub leagues, and then played well for them, and then went to the league above, played well for them, went to league above. And before I knew it, I was touching on professional football, and then I got a contract to play pro while traveling up the leagues. Don't get me wrong, I had to drop down a couple of times, but sometimes it felt like it was on my own accord. It wasn't through rejection. It was through like location, better money, if I'm honest, sometimes. And then continued the upward trajectory, and then got to a situation where I got a pro contract, and I never had it renewed, so I saw the contract out and got told about 6 months before, and I was living in London, and I had a life there, and I'd sat down by the manager at the time, who I respected very much, and he sat down with me and he just said, we're not going to renew your contract. And I had to just take it. And at the time there was a rejection, there was a big rejection, and I'm still trying to decipher and discern what it meant to me. And ultimately I think it's just the way the game is. You just got to accept that rejection is a massive part of this game. And I rolled my sleeves up. wrote to some other pro clubs. I got another pro contract after, but it was to a lesser extent where I had to start thinking about working as well. So it was like the peak and then the decline, if you wanted to look at it that way in terms of level. And then that was the moment where it started to go back down the other way, and I ended up working with you two.
Well, well, that's a great answer, mate. That's a great answer,
That's
Phil.
when you peaked, Phil. That's
I
when
was
you
going to
peaked.
say that's you
to...
climbing to the top, mate. We've helped you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah.
It's interesting you describe it like that because obviously you're going to experience rejection. And the thing I wanted to say is, how did you both respond? Because obviously you've got one end of the spectrum, which is you respond by bouncing back and working hard, and the other end, you sit on your sofa and give up. And there's a lot in between. So how have you responded to rejection?
Well, I mean, you've only if you want something, you just got to keep going for it. So I know that sounds cliche, but each time I'm just going to use the example that I gave, the first example that I gave, which was going to all of these different tryouts. That took a determination to especially because of the travel involved. It wasn't just local; it was all over England. So there was a lot of traveling involved, and it was in the winter as well. So it's like, no one looks forward to those early starts in the winter in England. But I think the bigger one, the one where I was rejected by Bolton and Stockport County, that just kind of sent me back to the drawing board, really, because there was people around me saying, look, still keep going, still keep going. But I was at an age where it was kind of like I was hitting like 15, and it was like, if you're not getting picked up by then, for the high level anyway. So in the back of my head, I did have doubts as well, but I just kept going, and I just kept going because not necessarily because I felt I was going to get there, but because that was just who I was in terms of my personality. The alternative was what? Sit on your sofa, like you just said, Paul, and do what? No, I loved the game, so I kept going. And then I just played until I was what, 29, 30, and then I stopped, didn't make it pro, but I had a good run at it.
Fair enough. Yeah, look, I mean, young players have got to experience rejection. And to me, the earlier they experience it, the better for them. That's difficult, obviously, because if you're young, it hurts and you get rejected and you think straight away, I think your feeling goes to, well, I'm not good enough. And that can actually be the case. It's not always the case, but rejection's obviously coming in our lives sooner or later. And so if you get to deal with it younger, it sets you up then, in my opinion, to be able to deal with it better as you go along and you get older. Obviously, it's going to happen in football. That's what we're talking about now. You're going to get rejected for work, for jobs, going to interviews, and you're definitely going to, I mean, we'll go back to you in a minute, Phil, on this, because you're going to get rejected in relationships. So, you're going to get rejected. It's not going to feel good. And the thing is, if everyone tells you all the time that you're great, you're really good, that's not a good thing for our ego. You've got to occasionally be told that you're not good enough and get that rejection, or you've got to work harder and improve. And from football perspective, that can light a fire in a young player. And I think, Phil, you talk about that for a minute, because I'm sure you've had situations in football where it's lit a fire in you and you've come back and then, like you just described before, moved on to higher levels.
Yes, Paul. Yes. There was a moment where, while I was on that decline from what I would consider my peak, and I was on the decline, I was like, I got to a point where maybe the year after that, or the couple of seasons after that, I was actually sort of like quite content with the rejection, where I was almost like, well, there's a little bit less pressure on me here, in certain aspects. But the main one was I started playing for a team. I'm not going to mention any names, where I just realized I was like, listen, if I don't sort myself out, like I'm 32 at the time, if I don't sort myself out, I'm on the scrap heap. So I was playing two different types of positions to try and survive in the game. And I got to a point where I got rejected from a team I was quite embarrassed to be rejected by, if I'm honest. And then was like, do you know what? I'm going to go on trial with a team that's like 3 leagues above this, and I'm just going to go and give it a go. And I turned up to that tryout, and I was just like, I put everything on the line to show myself, and all the things that we talked about during the tryout phase. Like I went there, good attitude, lots of communication, like tried to bring a maturity, tried to bring an experience, tried to turn that rejection into something positive, and I was successful. And actually drop down and then skip back up, towards, when the early 30s. That's when, you imagine a player to start drifting out of the game. And I did the opposite and come back. And funny enough, that team that rejected me called me like halfway through the season. They saw I was on the bench once and they were like, "Would you like to come back?" And I was like, "I'm good. I'm good where I am. I'm playing at a higher standard."
You said something interesting there, that you became comfortable with rejection.
Yeah.
Did that just make it easier then? Like maybe some of the nerves go away and everything just becomes, let's just carry on, go through the process. I know I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, there's a mixture of both. There's a sort of like a dark complacency in there. It's like, do you know what? I'm taking myself out of the limelight, and it's less pressure, so you can get comfortable with that. And yeah, I think that's something you have to be really conscious of if you really want to stay in soccer. And the other side of it was, the more I'll reference it like this for anyone who plays golf. Sometimes you go out and play golf and you think this is going to be a great round, and then you shank a few off the first hole, and then by the third hole it's a disaster already, and then all of a sudden the pressure's off. You just think, it's going to go out and play. It's a lovely day, and all of a sudden you start playing great. There's an element of that in the rejection. The rejection I felt in football is like rejection, 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 a little bit of success, rejection. Do you know what? This rejection's a part of the game. Like I'm just going to go and try and enjoy what's left of it and try and understand the beauty of the game. And
Great.
understand like my teammates in it. I actually made more friends on that downward spiral than I did on the upward spiral.
I think that's a great explanation, and great for young players and parents to hear that and understand, become comfortable with rejection and learn how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So on to parents and kids again quickly then in the youth game, which is mostly what we're talking about. This happens often, obviously. If a parent is angry that their kid got rejected at a tryout or maybe gets cut by a coach from a team, what can they do, or what should they do?
I think the bigger picture is we need to redefine a little bit what rejection is. Let's just bring it to youth level for a second. You've been rejected by a team. You've been rejected by a big club, whatever it is, a higher level club, whatever it is. I think we've spoke about this in previous episodes in terms of social media. All the kids these days are growing up with social media, and it is, for the most part, a false sense of reality where everything seems to be hunky-dory and perfect, and it just isn't that in real life, especially in a competitive sport like soccer. So for me, I think we need to maybe just redefine/reframe what rejection actually is, and maybe my suggestion would be to look at it as a redirection. You were on a particular path. You wanted a particular outcome. It didn't quite go your way, but that doesn't mean it's a failure. In today's society, that seems to be how it's perceived. But this is where I feel good coaches and obviously parents come in, or just role models in general, where you can speak to the kid and say, look, listen, this didn't work out. It's not on you. It just wasn't the right time. You're being redirected. See it as that, like what Phil was talking about. And then there's just this like little bit of pressure that gets taken off, and you just have a little bit more freedom. But it also takes a bit of discipline from the person hearing it as well. They've also got to buy into that. You can't just say to them, do this, if they're not feeling that way. But I think re-emphasizing the point, and this is where a good coach comes in, re-emphasizing the point and say, look, there's a bigger picture in play here. Don't take it to heart. Big things are coming in your path. It's just this wasn't the right time for you. So it's kind of like a reframing. And I think that's a powerful thing. And so that's kind of how I'd suggest, or what I'd suggest to parents and players and coaches too.
Mm-hmm. Paul,
Yeah,
what about sorry, Paul.
Go on, mate, you go.
No, carry on. I
No, go on, mate. What about? Go on, you go. Sound.
No, I was just saying that Ricky's, like, said that really well, and it seems like more on the broader scale of, like, not to speak for you, Ricky, but it sounded more in terms of maybe joining a club that you wanted to join, or go into a city that you had your heart hopes on for college or something like that, Whereas I just wanted to bring in that question on, like, your parents have traveled, to go to a tournament, and it's taken a while to get there, and you're not at the starting team, and you get 10 minutes. There's a slight rejection in that we all have to we all have to face in our climate.
Yeah, we've talked about this in previous episodes in terms of what can you do to make sure you're in the starting team, or what can you do to make
Yeah.
sure you get lots of minutes.
Mm.
And obviously, it's about being proactive and practicing as much as you can,
Mm.
so that you're as competent as you can. And then when you're
Yeah.
competent, you develop confidence. And when you're confident, you're going to play better and
Yeah.
take your opportunities when you might only play for 10, 15 minutes
Mm.
and show the coach that you're worthy of actually being a starter. And I think that's one of the problems, that there's a big complacency, Phil, among kids and also with us as adults at times. Like every day, obviously, if you're having the perfect life, you should be looking to improve yourself and grow every day. But often we wait until something goes wrong, whether it's
Mm.
getting rejected at a tryout or maybe getting sick, for example.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
should be working on your health every day by eating
Mm.
healthily, so you
Yeah.
don't get sick in the first place. Don't
Mm.
wait and get sick and go, well, now I need to do something about it. And the rejection thing kind of comes into that. If you're training a lot, practicing a lot, and making the best of what your genetics are, the chances are, unless you're trying to get onto a team that's just too high for your level, you're going to get the opportunities and the time that your quality deserves.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
think you mentioned that last week.
You couldn't agree more, Paul, especially with regards to the sort of diet and the other aspects of life. It's more of a way of living that we can sort of take into soccer or football. We can say, you know what, this is how I treat my diet. This is how I treat my relationship with my family, or I treat my relationship with my partner. I know we're talking about a youth level here, but we're also talking about parents. Um, but I think there's a little bit of a pattern I can see there, and it's just like rejection's going to come. Let's do what you can prior to that rejection. When it comes, you're like, I've done my best. Is that sort of the message you're giving?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. What,
Yeah.
what could you both say to parents or kids about lighting a fire in themselves? Because from my perspective, whenever I got rejected, I would immediately respond with, who the hell do you think you are rejecting me? I'm going to
Mm.
go and work twice as hard and be so much better that there's no way you can say no next time. I would use it as to light a fire in me and to push me harder. What can you
Yeah.
say to parents and kids on that front?
Is that, Paul, on that though, is that something that you grew up with, and therefore it's already ingrained in your personality to have that self drive?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think I might have been that way since I was 8 or 9.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Mm.
I'm not sure exactly whether that's a genetic thing, but that was definitely in me. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Because this is bringing it back then to kind of what I was touching upon earlier about a coach or a parent or a role model, someone being there. For example, kids that might not have that, how would they react and what would they do to light a fire? Because they need a reference point. They need
Mm.
someone to have given them. They need to have had an experience, or for someone to have kind of intervened and give them a piece of advice. So for you, that's a self drive that you had. What do you mean you rejected me? Okay, I'll show you, and I'll come back bigger and stronger and better. Like that kind of mentality, right?
Yeah, it's you're right. It's a different thing. I think I had that because I'd practiced from when I was a little kid. So the reality is, in my mind, I knew I was competent. I knew I was good.
Yeah.
So it was, how dare you reject me? But obviously, you're describing a really different thing, which is a fair point. A kid that might not have that competence and confidence, getting that rejection and saying, all right, well, how do I deal with that now?
Yeah,
Mm.
because it's obviously it's age, different kids, different ages as well, right? They're all going to have different aspects of it in terms of how they deal with it. In terms of lighting a fire, I think if you're able to transmute a rejection into an opportunity and kind of alchemize that, then that's a powerful path for you to take, because you're coming at it with this massive determination, courage, bravery, and you're saying, come on then, let's have a go. It's basically grabbing the rejection by the horns and just dragging it along. So, but that, like you say, that does take a bit of self-awareness, and maybe, you, like you said, it happened with you from a young age, as it did all of us. We're all kind of similar in that regard.
And it
So
probably takes a few rejections actually to get to that point.
exactly. And Phil, I just wanted to quickly touch upon what you said about the tournament thing. We've all been there, where we've travelled a long distance and we've got kids on the bench. who might not necessarily be, at the top end of the team, but we're conscious of the fact that they've travelled. And if they don't get on the field or they don't get many minutes, that can be seen as a rejection, right? My argument there would be that that situation is happening to give them the data and give them the information. Okay, maybe this isn't quite for me. Use that rejection then to then maybe either improve and do more work if you're not already doing it, or look for an alternative whenever the next window comes around where you can transfer between clubs. So I just wanted to get that in. Sorry, Paul. I know you were talking about lighting a fire and stuff, but I just wanted to get on that because it's an important point. That
No, Phil, we've talked about it before, but Phil might want to talk about it a little bit again. If somebody is getting rejected and they're not getting enough time in games or they're not making it onto a team, I think we can all agree most kids that we've seen and just most kids in general probably have more time available that they can practice if they really want to and they're desperate to get better. Obviously, Phil, you do a lot of private coaching. So again, my question is, if a kid is getting rejected, have they done enough prior to that rejection to make sure they've given themselves the best opportunity possible? I don't know if all kids are. Phil, what do you think?
Well, I'd like to introduce sort of personalities and face fit sort of aspects of the game. Like sometimes you could be quite a good, strong player, and your face, we call it in England, your face just doesn't fit. And it feels like it's something that you've done wrong. But you just might have an ethic that might be different to what the team has. It's like in my opinion, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. You have to sort of find your tribe in this game. You have to find who you belong with. The people that are going to hold you accountable in the way that's going to make you tick. And if you want to watch how people are not playing on the tribe they should be potentially could be with or should be with, let's just say, go and have a look at the top leagues. Go and have a look at the Premier League. Go and look at all those teams that are struggling in the Premier League or in the Champions League or La Liga or even MLS. That there will be things going off at the top flight where people will be getting rejected, and there'll be situations with coaches where they just don't get along, the face doesn't fit, and it's just those little things that start to creep into a team, and it just unbalances the harmony of a good winning club. So part and parcel of the game. If you look at yourself in the mirror and you realize, I'm doing my running, I'm eating well, I'm getting my sleep, I'm dedicated to this game as best as I possibly can, and I want to do it, and I've just been rejected, you've got to dust yourself down and say, do you know what? The coach that I'm supposed to be working for or working with is out there somewhere. I've got to keep going.
I think that's a brilliant framing of it, Phil. And I think it's really important actually to frame it that way. Maybe a good example of that is Mo Salah and Kevin De Bruyne. Both kind of in their own way got rejected by Chelsea, ended up being arguably two of the best players the Premier League has ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it might not be because you're not good enough then. And this is the point I think we're trying to make. You might get rejected, but it doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means, like Phil's just used the example there, if your face doesn't fit. It might be that the coach has got a certain style and he's got someone that's already like you and he's established, and so maybe they don't need you. It might be that you're a small kid and they've got a style of play where they need bigger, stronger players. It doesn't mean you're not good enough, And I think that's the important part. If any of the young kids that are listening, always understand that rejection doesn't mean it's not you specifically that's not good enough. It could be that you're just not at the level, but also it might just be dependent on what the team needs, what the coach needs at that moment in time. Like Phil said, he got rejected by a club, and then I don't know what the time frame was, Phil, but then later on they came back and asked you if you wanted to come back. So the first time you went, it didn't quite work out. The second time you went, or the second time they were aware of you, they asked you back and you said no. So it's a timing thing as well.
Yeah, I think there's an important distinction to make there, that sometimes we can say, look, it's not that you're not good enough. It just isn't the right time or the right opportunity, or your face doesn't fit. Equally, what we don't want to do is say to kids and parents, well, if you get rejected somewhere, just say, well, it's because the coach didn't like me, and start making excuses. And then just say, no, it's not me. It isn't me. Right? It's them. It's their fault. It's the coach's fault. It's the club's fault. And the tryout had too many kids at it. So I wasn't able to be seen properly. And also, none of those, those girls, they knew me. Some of them didn't pass to me. It's their fault. So we've got to be
Yeah.
careful of that as well. Do you think?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
we see that
No,
quite often, don't we?
sorry. Yeah, no, just to sort of like go a bit further on that. And like I think what we're talking about when we're talking about your tribe and if your face fits, we're talking to a standard of player that's maybe a little bit higher. That's someone where it's really fine lines. Some of the players that we work with, it's basically you just ain't doing enough, and you need to, it's a complete opposite side of the spectrum. You need to be completely honest, look yourself in the mirror, understand whether or not you want to play this game or not, and transcend this pain that you're going through, because that's the test. If this game's going to test you, as life is, it's going to keep testing you, keep testing you. And I'd sort of imagine it a little bit to like a soccer god up there saying, right, you want to play at this standard, let's see what you're willing to do. Because we've all worked with a player recently who got an offer to play at the level he wanted to play at, but he had to travel 3 nights a week, an hour and a half, 2 hours to actually get to practice just to play at a certain level. Would he have wanted it to go that route? No, in my opinion, he's getting tested to see how much he really wants to play the game. And I feel like he's made the right decision to go that way. It's a test. Can he come through it? Can he go through the travel? This game's got a lot of travel involved, And he's getting tested along the way in different ways as well now, on the pitch stuff and new surroundings. But I think it's great. That'd be a great experience for him.
This is a real test. What documentary is that from, Phil?
It's a real test. I recommend everyone to watch The Impossible Job on YouTube. It's a real test. This 2-0 down against Norway. It's a real test.
The Impossible Job. Graham Taylor, England's manager from when was it, Phil? What year was it?
It was 1990. It was running into the 1994 World Cup, which is the World Cup in the USA. The last time I was here, funnily enough, and it's a documentary about a rejection. In my opinion,
it's actually really worth watching. It is a documentary about rejection. England didn't make it. 1994 here in USA. We didn't make it. It's one of the only World Cups we didn't make it to. We got robbed by Holland. We got robbed by the officials.
Phil, when you were talking about that player there in terms of the travel and stuff, I think whenever you make a decision to make a change, so you're leaving your comfort zone, you might be leaving your current team that you've been with for a while, or you've got to commit to a certain amount of travel across the course of a week or whatever it is, and games in all different states and whatnot. I think that with that you're basically saying you're inviting tests in, because whenever you make a change, there's going to be change, obviously. But those tests are going to be perhaps new tests that you've not really experienced in the past, along with some that you might have. But there's going to be, you're stepping into a new environment, you're stepping into a new kind of style, a new way of being, a new team, a new everything. So you're going to get hit with all kinds of different stuff in terms of tests. And then it does come down to what you just said. How much do you want it? Because you've got to navigate these tests. Let's call them obstacles, because that's what they are. You've got to navigate these tests and obstacles if you want to go to the next stage of your development, to the next level. And then when you get there, by the way, you're going to get a whole heap of new tests and a new set of obstacles. So it comes down to that
mini rejections there.
Yeah, there's going to be ups and downs. And this is what I was trying to get at earlier about reframing it. If you, in the back of your head, you're going, no matter what happens here, my trajectory is going up. But sometimes it's not linear. We've said this thousands of times, Paul. Like, development isn't linear. So you're going to have to come down and learn some lessons before you bounce, and then you go back up. And then you bounce through, you blast through that ceiling. And when you've blasted through that ceiling, it starts again, the up and down nature of it, where you learn your lessons and then you go and hit your ceiling, and you blast through the ceiling and you keep going. So that's that drive. That's why it's so important, the mentality aspect of it again.
That up and down thing, important, Ricky. And some players learn to deal with that over time. And they, like you say, go through that ceiling. They take a bit of rejection, fight back, and go through the next ceiling. Some players we've seen over the years, young players, haven't taken the rejection well. And we've seen players come to our old club, dropping down from a higher club, and then struggled a little bit at our club and ended up not playing football and just kind of quitting, and found the multiple rejections really difficult.
Yeah, I suppose if they're in success, if you get a couple in succession as well, you're really getting tested then. It's not only you get your perseverance, your patience, all of that's getting tested. And then obviously the doubts creep in. Am I good enough? Can I do it? And again, I bring it back to what I was saying. If you've got a good coach, or you've got a big brother or an uncle or a cousin or a dad or a mum, whoever it is, a role model, that's just in your ear when you're having those doubts and you're having those moments, like that's worth its weight in gold. And that's why coaches have a huge responsibility. It's not just preparing the team. It's not just setting the tactics and blah, blah, blah. It's what are you saying to the kids outside just to give them that support, the mental support. It's a really, really important thing. And I know we all do it. So I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit. I think it's an important
I'll
topic.
touch on that because it's a really important topic, actually. And I was asked many years ago a couple of times when we cut players from the team because they essentially didn't keep up with everyone else from a development perspective. And so it made sense for them to join another team where they were going to play more. And a couple of parents said to me, Paul, I want you to deliver the news to the player, to my son or daughter.
Remember, yeah.
I want you to tell them that they're being cut from the team and explain to them why. And I think part of me at the time maybe thought, hang on a minute, is that a bit of a cop-out from you as a parent? Like, should you be delivering that message as the parent? And then I thought about it and I was like, no, I'm the coach. I should be able to deliver that message and be very honest with the player. And once I've delivered that message and explained why they're not staying with us anymore and why the next opportunity is probably the best one for them to go to a different team, then it's the job of the parent to come in after that and probably reinforce that message.
Yeah, you did your part. You prepared them, and you gave them hope as well, though. And I think that's the important thing. You told them the truth, which is the truth is, look, lad or girl, this isn't quite working out for your level, for your development. We care about your development. We believe that this would be the best option for that. And by the way, if you do this, this is where we think you can get to. And I think that that's important as well. Like, not just deliver it, because we've seen it over the years where sometimes they just get an email, no, you're not good enough, bye. And it's like, well, hold on a second.
You're not joking, though. That's literally it. A couple of lines. Sorry, you're no longer on the team. Good luck. See ya.
Yeah. And I think that parents and kids, whether the kids fully understand it at the time or not, they'll appreciate the honesty with that. And I think that that's what we always tried to do when we were running our club, is to be honest with them. They might not like the message that's getting delivered, and effectively you are delivering quote unquote a rejection, but you're also saying, this is the reason why I'm a professional at what I do. This is how I see it going. This is where I see you can go if you do this, this, and this. It's just that this environment right now, the timing, again, back to timing, it's just not the right time for you where you're at. This is a better option.
Yeah, I wonder if Phil could maybe have a think for a second, give a little bit of advice to parents in this position, Phil, because the most infamous one we had, Ricky, was one of the mums was pretty annoyed that we were cutting her daughter from the team. She wasn't quite good enough for the team anymore. I think she'd had a couple of glasses of wine before she came to practice, and she ended up unloaded on us, verbally and physically, on the field after practice. That was an interesting one. I've still got the voice notes or whatever from that one of the kids took from the side of the field. It's funny listening back, but it wasn't funny at the time. Phil, have you got any advice for parents that are annoyed about their kid being cut? Maybe don't have a couple of glasses of wine and come to the field. What would you say to them?
Well, first things first, it's an interesting one because I think what we're getting out of this conversation, and I am going to it, I'm just going a long way round. What we're getting out of this conversation here is this differentiation between, are they nearly there and they need to keep going, or they need to look at themselves in the mirror and go back to the drawing board, which I have to do in my golf game every couple of weeks,
Yes, Tiger.
And I think the parent, I think that's a really good opportunity for the parent to come in suspend their emotion, take a deep breath, and say, what part of this process are we at? Are we in a situation where we're nowhere near it and we've got to go back to the drawing board, which you have to do in life? We do it in relationships, we do it with diets, we do it with sleep, we do it with patterns. And then the other side is, you know what? You're close. We just need to keep going. And maybe some people will be somewhere in the middle of that, So really, really, before you get emotional about it and before we start, the worst case scenario is when people start to act victim or perpetrator. So people start pointing fingers or blaming one another. Got to stop. Everyone can take a little bit of responsibility. You're part of a team. Your family is your team. That's the closest thing you're going to have to an agent at the moment, or a personal manager in the game, so really, really, in my opinion, suspend that emotion, take a deep breath and have a conversation. Where are you at? And if you need to ask the coach, is he miles away from it or was he quite close? Hopefully you get a bit of honesty from the coach and deal with it then. Hopefully you're in that former category.
Great answer. Very balanced answer, Phil. In keeping with how you are. Very good, mate. Great answer.
All right, so let me ask you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Let me ask you. They're not doing it. They need to go back to the drawing board. What advice do you have for the parent when they have to go back to the drawing board if they do recognize that?
When the kid has to go back to the drawing board, or the parent, or both?
I would suggest it's everyone. If that's the engagement they want in it. Now, we know about helicopter parents and we know about those parents that aren't helicopter, but they're too far away from it. And they're there's a slight abandonment potentially in there. Not that I want to use that word. It's almost like, I think there's a fine balance between how much you help the player in your family. But I'd like to know what would you suggest to someone who really needs to look at themselves in the mirror and needs a kick up the backside.
Well, I'm a big fan of being direct and very blunt honesty. I'm a big fan of that, and I think it's really, really important, especially for young people. So from a parent perspective, how do you have that conversation with the kid then to say, have you been doing enough as an individual in every practice? Have you been working hard enough every practice to make sure that you stay on this team? Have you been doing the work on your own in your own time? Have you been doing the work at school or after school to make sure you stay on this team? Look me in the eye and tell me now, what is the answer to that question? Have you been doing enough, yes or no? And be very direct about it. And it's a difficult conversation to have with your kid. And maybe your kid's has great self-reflection and goes, do you know what, Mum, Dad? I don't think I have been doing enough. And then that shapes the rest of the conversation. But then if they look at you and say, yeah, I have been doing enough. I've done everything. And I'm not staying on the team. So what else am I supposed to do, Mum? What else am I supposed to do, Dad? I mean, that takes it in a different direction then. But I do think there has to be a really blunt honesty, and you've got to have that direct conversation with your kid.
Right, hold on a sec. Before we bring
we'll hold on, mate. You go.
Hold on. Say you're in a situation where you say to your player, your son or daughter player, have you been doing enough? And you have this little inkling that they definitely have not. Like they watch them, they see them in their room, they see them on the iPads, and then they come after the rejection. They're like, yeah, I'm like really working hard here, like I'm really doing. What do you do then?
Well, then you come with the receipts, don't you? And you say, look, no, I've been watching you. I've seen you on your Xbox 4 hours last Tuesday. You could have been out at the field. You've got to come with your receipts and say, look, no. There have been so many opportunities for you to do extra practice when you haven't. So now, son, daughter, I'm going to look you in the eye and I'm going to hold you accountable. Yeah. And if that's a difficult learning moment for the kid.
But you're saying that from a very pure place there, Paul, in my opinion. You're not emotionally invested. So I just want to give that that might, we're talking about other people's kids.
Well, look,
what I'm saying, Paul, is if the parent can do it in the same manner, in the same energy that you just said it, they've got a chance. But as we all know with families, there's always that little bit of tone in there. And
it's really hard, I think, to come at it in that balanced way, Phil. You're right. And yeah, my wife's, I've said before, my wife's Latina. So her approach would probably to get la chancla, which is the slipper. And yeah, you get the slipper over your legs 5 or 6 times. You haven't been working hard enough. And that's the honesty that you get there. Anyway, look, before we go into, before we get this one reported for child abuse, we're kind of coming towards the end of this conversation. So is there anything really important that you both want to add on rejection before we go to a couple of questions that parents have?
Not to add, I'd just like to reiterate what I said earlier about the reframing and redefining what rejection actually is. If you can see that all of it is part of a bigger picture, and no matter what happens, you're gonna be all right. There's gonna be twists and turns along the way. You might get to the end result that you desire, you might not, but along the way, you're going to learn an awful lot, whether it's in sport or in life. You're going to be able to take what you've learned with you, regardless. Whether you get that end result of getting onto a particular team, whether it's getting into a certain level of college, whether it's getting into a pro team, no matter what. And again, us three are examples of that. We all set off on the path to be pro footballers. I'm sure we all set on the path to be playing in the Prem at the highest level. It didn't happen, but look, life took us in a different direction, and now we're here doing this. Okay, it's not quite as extravagant as what the being a pro would have been, but what I'm saying is we've learned a lot along the way, and that's really important. So nothing's wasted, and just try and see the bigger picture. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. Now, great message. See the bigger picture. Take the experience and the learning rather than having to look for the end result. On the Premier League thing, by the way, I was definitely good enough to play there. It was the coach's fault. They just couldn't see my qualities. But anyway.
I had a few rumours about temperament, Paul.
Yeah, I had a bit of an issue there, Phil. That might have held me back slightly, mate.
Yeah. Sorry, just wanted to answer the question as well, because I think it's a really good question. I'm going to revert my whole answer back to substitutions and being rejected on match day, where you're not starting or you don't play a lot of minutes. I've been there. I think I've had some of my best seasons coming off the bench, a bit Ole Gunnar Solskjaer-ish. If anyone wants to go and investigate Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ricky will tell you all about him being a Man United fan. Predominantly super sub and proud of it. Used to come on and change matches, used to come on and score. But he scored 4 in one game when he come off the bench, didn't he,
Against
Ricky?
Forest. Yeah.
Was it Sheffield Wednesday? You sure it was Forest? Was it Forest?
Forest. It was 8-1 away at Forest at the City Ground. Yeah. And he studies the game, Phil. That's why he was he studied the opponent. He studied where he was going to be, what he was going to do. But yeah, go ahead.
And he didn't play victim. He didn't sit on the bench and say, I'm on the bench today and I'm bench warming and I'm just going to sorry, do you want to say something, Ricky?
I was just going to say, and he scored the most important goal in the club's history.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Champions League final.
Yeah.
As a sub, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, Arteta has redefined subs now, hasn't he? He calls them starters and finishers now. So he's calling the subs finishers.
What about the time you get you're subbed on and then you get subbed off? That's not.
That's a tricky one.
That's a rejection that anyone would feel would be really hard pressed to take. How
was
do you
it
deal
Ray
with
Parlour?
that?
Was it Ray Parlour? He played.
Got
he got an
subbed
England
on
debut.
and taken out.
Yeah. I think it was Ray Parlour.
One, yeah.
It probably was, Phil, if you're saying it. It might have been him. I know it's happened in club football a couple of times. I remember that kid, the young kid at Southampton. He got a short amount of time in the game and they took him out. He'd apparently been put on the team at the recommendation of George Weah, or he was George Weah's cousin. And then I think it might have been Harry Redknapp realised he'd been absolutely duped on a phone call and the kid was just some random kid. But got to play for Southampton, but took him out because he was a nightmare.
Careful what you say about the Weahs. They're still around in the game doing bits, aren't they?
All right. Well, yeah. I think he may be the president of Liberia.
Something
anyway,
like that.
we're going into politics. We don't want to do that.
We don't want to do politics in a bit. Can I just finish what I was saying on that though?
Go on then, Phil. I'll give you 20 seconds.
Give me 20 seconds. When you're on that bench, you are harnessing your energy. You are not sitting there as a victim. You are harnessing it. When you get on the field, if you're on the field for 10 minutes, you let 90 minutes worth of energy out in that 10 minutes.
You're a caged lion waiting on the subs bench to go in,
and then
right?
when you get on there, use everything you possibly got to go and change the game for positive and be like, yeah, you put me on the bench. This is what happens when I come off. And then you might be on the bench again, but take it as a compliment. Sometimes those substitutes are the most important.
Brilliant message. Phil, that one's a brilliant message. Come on and make an impact. Don't come on and sulk.
No.
Don't sulk while you're there, neither.
No. Right. Because your body language while you're on the bench actually makes a big difference. If you just sat there sulking, you think the coach is going to turn around and go, yeah, I'm going to put you on.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it is. Is it?
Keep getting warm. Sorry, Bill.
There's a basketball coach. I can't think who it is. Is it Gino something? Famous American basketball coach. Every time I listen to him, his interviews, fantastic. And he says very, very clearly, if you have bad body language, you will never get on the court, ever.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, Great discussion. Let's go to a couple of questions that parents have sent in. We always finish off with that. So first question, one of you can answer this. Should my son or daughter be watching their games on video or watching their games back on video? And what specifically should they be looking for?
Yeah, I'll answer this, Paul, if that's all right. Because
Go,
I
mate.
love watching videos of players. If you're lucky enough to have footage of your game, there is no doubt about it that you should look through it. Even if it's just moments that you remember and say, I need to find that moment. What actually happened? Or if you feel like you come out of the game, you're not really sure if you played well or didn't play well, you need to go and have a little look at that. How many times did you give the ball away? How much running did you do? What's your energy like compared to the other players? Are you sharper than them, or are you more committed than they are? Just have a look around at have a look at it as a sort of like a piece of art where you're like, this is how I'm moving compared to everyone else. But back to the basics though. Am I doing my job? Try and identify what your job is, and can you have a look at maybe someone like we've talked about before on the telly in their matches in the Premier League, and am I playing my position very similar to what they are? What's happening with me, that's happening with them. It's a big investigation. You can't just go and tune in and be like, I'm an expert, I can see everything. It's like you've got to look for patterns. You've got to look for like, well, I keep seeming to do that and it doesn't work. This seems to happen really well. Can I keep doing it? Don't get bored of doing don't get bored of doing a good thing, because that's detrimental to the other team. Just keep doing it. If you're doing something good, recognize it. I would say screen record it, make the clips, enjoy watching your own clips as well. Enjoy watching your good things. Like, build the confidence from it. Watch how good you possibly can be. We could do a whole segment on this, Paul.
We could do a full podcast on it. That's brilliant. But that's a great message. Watch your games back, find the good things, let that build your confidence. But at the same time, also watch and notice the things that you're not doing well, because you might lie inside your own head. The video doesn't lie.
Yeah, absolutely. And watch those embarrassing times. Watch those embarrassing times again. They're not as embarrassing as what you think. They're perfect learning opportunities.
Learning opportunities. Great message, Phil. Right, second question. Ricky, my daughter plays multiple sports. Is that a good thing, or should she just focus on soccer only?
I'm actually going to defer this to you, Paul, because this is a question that you seem to get pretty much every other week. So instead of me answering it, I'm going to fire it right back at you, son.
Cheers for that. Look, if someone's playing multiple sports and they're a good athlete and it fits for their schedule and they can fit everything in, by all means, play multiple sports. I will say, first off, once you get to high school here in America, once you're in high school, playing multiple sports, exceptionally difficult. Really, really difficult from a scheduling perspective, and just trying to fit everything in and trying also to be really good at those multiple things. What I will say is the traditional American sports, moving between those sports, basketball, don't know whether you'd count American football, baseball. Come on, what am I missing?
Ice hockey?
Hockey, whatever. The American
Lacrosse.
sports, you can move between them as a good athlete. You can move between them much easier. That transition between sports is easier. Doing other sports while also trying to be really good at soccer, to me, is really difficult, because soccer's different. I've said it on a previous podcast. It's foot dominant, not hand dominant, which sets it apart on its own. And so if you're not playing a lot of soccer because you're doing different sports and you might only be playing soccer once or twice a week, your development is going to reflect that really clearly. And so if your daughter or your son, they're happy playing multiple sports and they just enjoy soccer and they do it for a bit of fun, by all means, carry on. Do multiple sports. And when you get to high school, again, while it's difficult, you might still be able to manage that. If you're serious about soccer, if your daughter or your son are serious about being a really good soccer player and they have ambitions about playing in college or maybe even higher, doing multiple sports, not for me. Just the math just doesn't work. You can't put the hours and the time in to be as good as you need to be to compete with other people that are playing soccer all day, every day, and that's all they do. It's that's just basic concept of how many hours have you done and how many hours have they done. Phil, you're looking to come in on this one, I feel.
No, I agree with you. I think if you're trying to make it as a pro, or if you're trying to make it at a good standard in two different sports, I think that's very, very difficult. I've not been able to do it. I wouldn't recommend it. If you concentrate on a sport and you're taking it very, very seriously, I just believe every now and again to go and play a different sport just to unwind can be a
Agreed
good
on that.
thing.
Agreed on
Yeah.
that.
What about the sports that complement it? I know that for soccer we've had some runners and swimmers that we've coached over the years, and those two types of sports are really good for fitness, obviously. And as we've said many times on previous episodes, fitness is a big thing in terms of soccer. What I've found with those types of athletes is that the fitness is obviously a very, very high level, but the fundamental aspect of it isn't, because they're splitting their energy and time between two sports, even though they do complement each other in certain regards. I feel as though the ceiling fundamentally, because of that split, it kind of creates a bit of an imbalance when it comes to the fundamental stuff. What do you think about that?
It does. And look, even though we said previously about the psychological part of soccer being the most important part, it is, but also the two massive parts, the technical side of the game. The technical side of the game and your game IQ and understanding the game. The technical side comes purely from hours invested in the game and practice. And then the tactical part or the game IQ part and the decision making comes from seeing so many patterns and so many situations over time. So again, the time just isn't there. You can't be really good technically and tactically and decision making wise unless you're investing a huge amount of time. You just can't. I'll tell people that straight. And people will argue and go, yeah, we can, Paul, because I'm going to show you this outlier guy from 1987 that played American football and 4 other sports, and he managed to get into MLS. Yeah. There's always an outlier somewhere. But generally speaking, if you want to be really good at soccer, you've got to just play that sport. You've got to just play that sport.
Who's that outlier, Paul? Is that Ian Botham?
Ian Botham. Was Botham a cricketer and a footballer, Phil?
Yeah, he played football a little bit. Yeah, and then you've got other people. I might not mention his name actually. You've got someone who played in goal for Coventry, is now on the world stage and unraveling some of the mysteries that we go through in society. It's not a sport, but come to that another day.
Steady.
Come on, Mike. Who is it, Phil? Remind me who that is.
We'll talk about it another day. We'll talk about it another day.
All right.
Well, look, Spike.
If you can't just pick up a soccer ball. And again, I think I've got angry about this in a previous episode. You can't just pick up a soccer ball at 13, 14, 15 and go, I'm going to be a great player now. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Mm.
It isn't like I said, because it's foot dominant and not hand dominant. I read a great story about a Nigerian American football player that made it into the NFL. He'd never played American football. And he was 20, I think, moved here to college, never played American football. And then 4 years later was in the NFL. You use your hands so you can progress quicker through that development trajectory. With soccer, it just doesn't work that way. Yeah.
I think tennis is a good one, Paul. If you're a defender, I think tennis is a really good sport because it's like covering lots of space. If you get into a good game of tennis, if you're this with your mate and you're just hitting at the back of the court, I don't think it's going to do anything like rewarding for you with regards to football. But if you're in around the net and you're trying to get the little drop shots and you're changing direction a lot. And it's a really good sport. It's a really good tennis is really good for being a centre back.
It's great for movement mechanics. I played a lot when I was younger. I carried on playing tennis till I was 15, 16. And the other part about tennis and individual sports, will finish off here. The other part of that is it's only you. You haven't got 10 other teammates to rely on. So it's just you. So if you're doing really well, great. If you're crap, you don't blame anyone else. It's only you. So doing an individual sport when you're younger, I think it's great to develop your personality and that winning mentality. Anyway, I think that's we've come to the end of this episode. Another good one, lads. Thanks very much, Phil, Ricky.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, fellas. Cheers, Paul. Well hosted. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all for today. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time.